She is a publisher, a speaker, and she is the development director of New Life Refuge Ministries. I got to meet her this year at a women's conference, and she is a walking inspiration and a beacon light. And I'm so honored to have her today. So please help me welcome my guest, Sandy Storm. Sandy, welcome.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here. I've been so excited about sitting with you and doing this interview for a while, so I'm excited to be with you today. After meeting you this year, I realized there's a huge need for education on sex trafficking. And, to be honest with you, I had no idea about it. I was very naive to the situation. So thank you so much for being here, because I believe you're going to help me a lot, but also people that are watching this that really don't even know that this is going on.
I think that you're a lot like everybody else. There's a big misconception. Hollywood has done a good job presenting sex trafficking, but it's very unrealistic. What we do see in Hollywood, like movies like Taken, it's good that they're showing sex trafficking is happening, but they kind of show as a girl gets taken, snatched, and then moved to another country and handcuffed to a bed. And that's just not what it looks like in the United States. I know you're in Texas, I'm in Texas, so just some Texas facts.
Okay.
There's 79,000 children being trafficked for sex in our state right now. 79,000 children.
Just in Texas?
Just in Texas. And that number came out at the head of the year. The University of Texas had released a study. There are over 325,000 people being trafficked in Texas. And of those, 79,000 are children being sold for sex. And these are American children. These are our sons and daughters, our brothers, our sisters, kids that our kids go to Sunday school with, that they're in ball games with. I mean, it's definitely something that we need to be more aware about. And once you learn the signs and you learn it is happening, just like what happened with you, I'm sure you can see how it's happening and where it's happening around you now.
Oh my gosh. So walk me through it a little bit, because this is a world that goes on that I don't even understand. And you are a sex trafficking survivor, correct?
Yes. And my story started when I was very young, at 6 years old, being trafficked in the home. And then it led to a life of drug addiction, drug abuse, being trafficked by boyfriends in my teen years, up till my early 20s, being trafficked on the streets by pimps, like the traditional, what we would think of as prostitution or sex trafficking. When I started working within the ministry that I'm involved with now, I realized that my whole story was trafficking. I realized that I had been a victim, and I had never saw that before. Once I knew the signs, I realized that I wasn't making bad choices. I wasn't just meeting the wrong guys. I was being exploited by men who were very powerful and very meticulous in how they would manipulate and use me to get what they wanted, which ultimately was drugs and money.
So you said something really powerful there that I want to touch on. You said the signs. So there are signs that are there. What signs are there?
Well, just to rattle off a few, some things to look for with a young girl, maybe in high school, the high school age girl. If she has a much older boyfriend, and maybe there's a secret relationship or secrecy around that relationship, if all of a sudden she's coming out with new purses, very expensive items, a brand new cell phone, fancy clothes, getting her nails and hair done, and a lot of money spent on her that she doesn't have access to. If she starts talking about a relationship that we have big plans, we're going to do all these things. My boyfriend is so rich, or he's a record producer, or like has this extraordinary story. Somebody who's involved with drugs, who is has a lot of money all of a sudden, maybe a lot of hotel keys. Somebody who is a runaway is very highly likely to become a victim of trafficking. So if there's any instability in their home life, that just makes vulnerabilities, and traffickers exploit those vulnerabilities. So more often than not, what we see in the reality of trafficking in the United States is a girl is lured away. She's not snatched like in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be happening in her normal everyday life, and she could still be going about her normal business until that trafficker finally gets her to the point where she's going to leave and lose her comfort zone, her safety net. And then once he has her completely vulnerable and completely without any protection, then he really can start exploiting her. If you can imagine a trafficker taking a young girl who's very innocent, very naive, and maybe they've already been involved sexually together, it would be very easy for him to say, we're trying to do this thing, we're trying to make this money, and you're already doing this with me for free. My friend said that he'll pay you to do it. You just have to do it one time, and he's going to give us $100 or the drugs that we want or whatever that thing is. And so that girl's self-esteem goes down. She's self-blaming, she's guilty feeling, and she feels like it was her decisions that brought her to that point, not the manipulation of this man that she sees as her boyfriend. So this is the story that we see most often, and this is what I realized that I had went through in my teen years. They weren't really my boyfriends. They weren't. They didn't really love me. They didn't really care about me. They didn't want anything from me except for what they could get.
Get by using you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying that this is way more common than we think. So you're saying that these girls or boys, the people that are being sex trafficked, would go to school like they normally would, but then this would happen at night after school? Or on weekends?
So it is a lot more common than any of us would like to think, and it does happen to boys and girls. Trafficking has no socioeconomic pattern. It follows no religious backgrounds. Every race, every religion, boys, girls, men, and women are all trafficked. The one thing that they have in common is that they're vulnerable. So with the rise of social media, we see a lot of kids being trafficked and being lured away by traffickers that use social media to their advantage. So say a 13-year-old girl or a boy is on social media saying, I can't believe my parents won't let me dye my hair blue or go to that football game or whatever the thing is that the kid wants to do, which is normal for a 13-year-old to be told no by their parents.
Yes.
A trafficker could see that and befriend that child, that teenager, and start to build a relationship with them, where at first it seems like something that is a beneficial relationship both ways. But then as it grows, it's more manipulative, it's more exploitative, and ultimately that trafficker's goal is to remove the child or remove the teenager from their safety net so that they can be exploited. Now, Michelle, it's a hard truth, but trafficking is a business. As awful as it sounds, it's actually the number 3 ranked, number 2 and number 3, it goes back and forth, ranked criminal enterprise in the world. So we all know about drug trafficking. We know
You're saying that makes me so upset. Like, I can't believe that would be number 2, number 3. Like, my oldest son is 11 going on 12. And I think, is that one danger then when kids have social media, their phones, that they're able to go and connect with? Do you think that has a part in it, or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say social media is such an open door for predators to get into our kids' lives. That's why it's so important that we are the trusted adults for our kids. And if we don't have kids, we have nieces and nephews or kids at church or kids that our friends have, that we can be the trusted adults. So when a kid does get a message on, they don't use Facebook like we do, but if they get one on Snapchat or on their Xbox while they're playing a game or something like that, that they could come to us and say, hey, this didn't make me feel good, or this seems strange. We have to, the ones that they can come and talk to. So we do see the traffickers using these, because there's a lot of money to be made in this business. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Drug trafficking is number 1. And then gun trafficking and sex trafficking or human trafficking, they go back and forth for that second place spot. I don't know this year what the latest statistics say, but I know it's an ever growing enterprise. And when you think about it, if you're going to be a drug trafficker, you're taking a big risk. Every time you purchase drugs and every time you sell the drugs, you're taking a risk of getting arrested, of getting busted.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to take all that money and then go buy more drugs. And it takes a long time to make your money, and you're just putting yourself at risk. And if you get in trouble, you're going to get punished, a very strict punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with sex trafficking, we don't see that. We see oftentimes it's the girl or the trafficking victim that gets the punishment. You see her face on the news or in the newspaper, and you hear about the sting where this bad girl got arrested and went to jail. But you don't see anything about the pimp. You don't see anything about the Johns. So they know that the thing that they're doing that's illegal is low risk, and they can make a lot of money. So one trafficker with one victim, with one child prostitute, which there's no such thing as a child prostitute, but that's really basically what we're talking about, or even one young woman or young man could make between $100,000 and $250,000 a year. They're going to most often have these people work with, there's no safe work environment for a trafficking victim. So they'll work all night long and maybe see 10 to 20 customers or Johns, or really it's sex buyers. They're exploiters as well. So if you do the math on that, they don't get a day off. They don't get Christmas and holidays off. They don't get to see any of the money that they make because the trafficker is going to keep that all. So if a trafficker had a couple of girls, or what they call a stable, 4 or 5 girls, they could be making over $1 million in a year easily. And this is tax-free money through criminal enterprise. So they're not doing good things with this money, donating it to the local church or, investing it in the school district or anything like that. No. They're not paying taxes on it. So there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a low risk factor. So we see the rise in trafficking, and they're going to prey on our kids. And they're going to use anything that they can if they got to spend a little money on the front end to get into a young person's life and to be seen as their trusted friend, then they're going to spend that money. So that's why signs like a girl having a new Gucci bag or getting her hair done or things like that, sometimes those are signs, because that's part of the grooming process with a lot of traffickers.
So grooming, because they do that at first, but then once they have you and they have your trust, does that all stop?
Well, why would they have to keep spending that money? Once your self-guilt and your self-blame, and once you feel trapped, like these are choices that I made. That's what I thought. I thought I had made these choices. I had bad taste in men. They also use oftentimes fear, manipulation, violence, drug addiction. So imagine a 14-year-old girl that's been exploited. Now she's been removed from her home. She's run away willingly, so she feels like she can't go back. She's on drugs, so she feels like she can't go back. She's getting beaten by this man who says, if you run, I know where your parents live. I know where your little sister lives. I'll go get her. She can't go back. And just the self-blame, the guilt, the shame just keeps people trapped in this life and in the cycle of the drug addiction, the cycle of just continuing in that destructive lifestyle. This is why the average lifespan of somebody in the commercial sex industry is 7 years. So if somebody makes it past 7 years without dying of a drug overdose, being beaten to death by a pimp or a sex buyer, or just the unhealthy lifestyle, malnourishment, little or no medical care and things like this, we just see the value of life declining, and the life expectancy is very short.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad. So you're saying the life expectancy is 7 years, but so how were you personally able to cope during the time that you were involved in that?
I didn't know at the time. I didn't even know I was being exploited at the time. I didn't know for years after my life was delivered from that exploitation that was even what had happened to me. And my story has a very happy ending, and it's Jesus. So I can say now, looking back and seeing everything that happened in my life, that he was always with me. He was protecting me, even at times when I was being raped, even through drug overdoses, even through very lonely times on the streets. He never left me. Before I invited him to take control of my life, he was there. After I invited him to take control of my life, after I submitted everything to him, he gave me a new life. And the residue of that old lifestyle was completely dissolved. So my story ends a lot differently than, sadly, a lot of trafficking victims' story ends. That's why I'm so passionate about the work I do, because I want to get to them before their story ends in that life, and give them hope and share with them how they can live a new life and truly be free of all of the bad stuff that comes along with that lifestyle.
Amen. So you said, did you accept Jesus before you broke free of this pattern, or was it after? Like, tell me how did it end for you? How were you able to break free or stop that pattern?
So I had been best friends with an amazing man, and he's now my husband. So we had been married for almost a year, and I had been clean from drugs. He loved me as I was, knowing that I had had a very complicated life and knowing that I had been through a lot of darkness. He was so kind and loving, and he just really is a picture of Christ in the church. So we had been married nearly a year, and there was so much of that guilt and shame still left inside of me that it drove me back out. I left the house, I stayed out all night, and I went back to exactly what I had always known. And just one night living that life over again was enough to almost kill me. And when I came home the next morning, when the sun was coming up, I came home to his boxes packed, and he was leaving me. And how could I blame him? He knew that I had been in crack houses all night, that who knows how I stayed out all night. I didn't have any money. And I really honestly don't know everything that happened that evening, but I know that there's a real devil, and I know he was really trying to kill me that night. And after crying on my bed for 2 days straight, I went and I met with a pastor, and he asked me a question. He said, "Are you a Christian?" And I didn't know how to answer that question. I told him, I think I used to be, because I had been going to church on and off, and I had read my Bible a little bit. But I said, I did some really bad things, and I don't think that Jesus would want to be with me. I don't think he would want to be around somebody like me now. And the pastor told me that's not how this works. And he prayed a very simple prayer. And the things that had been controlling my life for so long lost their control. And I was face to face with the most important decision of my life. And Jesus was asking me for my life. And what would I say? What would you say if the creator of the entire universe comes to you and says, I require your life? I instantly and immediately gave everything to him. I didn't ask him into a place in my heart. I didn't say a repeat after me prayer. It was an exchange, a broken life that was leading to death, emptiness, divorce, every bad thing you could imagine. And I instantly transferred that to him and got this new life that's eternal and amazing, and it gets better every single day. It's not a fad or a phase. It hasn't worn off yet. I'm more excited about it today than I was yesterday. And it was instantaneous. So with that exchange, with that one decision, that guilt and shame, all of that self-blame got completely dealt with.
Amen.
His love became so real inside of me, it changed who I am. I am a new creation. I truly have a new life. So the second thing, and this is like the second half to my story, it's not all bad. Like all of the stuff I told you about, that was difficult to get through. But how do you navigate a new life with no tools now? He instantly gave me a tool. He said, I placed you in your mother's womb to lead her in the way of salvation. Now, I told you at the beginning of the story, my mother had trafficked me as a child. So I had a lot of anger and hatred in my heart towards her. So it took him asking twice, or telling me twice, that he had placed me in her womb to lead her in salvation. And the second time I got it, and I agreed with him, and he instantly gave me a love for her and forgiveness for her that's supernatural. I can't explain it. From that very moment, and it's been nearly 14 years ago,
Hmm.
I had such love and such forgiveness that was not from my heart, but straight from the heart of God, to offer her. And I've been pursuing her ever since, to share that love and to share that relationship with her. And I have a dream and a vision of us being completely restored in relationship and being able to fully fellowship as mother and daughter.
Hmm.
And I know that that's going to happen. I know that he's going to bless us with that someday.
And I'll stand in agreement with you for that.
Thank you.
That's for sure. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing, because it seems like something so little, but it's not, giving your life over, to something more powerful and bigger than you, like Jesus Christ, like giving it all to God and laying it at his cross, because that's what he asks us to do. And when you do that, when you lay your burdens and everything at his cross, he will refresh you, right? He will lift everything off and give you freedom. And that's exactly what you took. And, I admire you for the strength that it took to do that, because being in a situation where you didn't even realize that it was ingrained in you, and so young, and you didn't even realize that it was wrong, thinking that it was your fault, that you were able to forgive yourself and forgive the other people, because that's so powerful. And that's why you're able to go and be such a inspiration to other people, because you're actually doing it. You're not talking it, you're doing it. You're walking the life and showing that you can be in that darkness, but you can give it all over to God and walk in newness. That's super important, that people see that there is hope at the other side.
Well, forgiveness is the key that unlocks the kingdom of God to work in our lives. So I'm going to say that again. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the kingdom of God to work in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So when I chose forgiveness, and it was a choice, we all have to make that choice every day. I chose to receive the forgiveness of Christ. I chose to forgive my mother for things that some would say were unspeakable or unforgivable acts. When I made that choice to voluntarily participate with that forgiveness, it opened this kingdom for me where I don't have to live according to the laws of this land anymore.
Mm.
I don't have to be angry because somebody hurt me. I don't have to be offended because somebody said or did something that that was thinking of themselves instead of me. I don't have to be keeping an account of wrongs. And it's amazing. The last 14 years of my life have been according to this new system, and it's working pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've gotten to do some really cool stuff and to meet some amazing people because of it. And I would highly recommend it for anybody. Like, if you're in a life that is full of anger or bitterness or self-blame or guilt or shame, do this, try this instead, and see what the results are. So that's where the transfer really happened. That's where the transformation really happened. So I can't take any credit. You asked about the strength that I found, and it's not mine. It's his strength. Mm-hmm. I have access to everything in the kingdom of God now because of this key of forgiveness that I turned in the doorknob. And now I'm just taking advantage of everything that he's released to me. So I know that there's even more in store, and I'm excited about the journey. But this day, every day is just awesome when you live this way.
Yes, I agree.
You know.
I do know, and I agree.
You know. That's why we're friends.
I have a question. If there was somebody watching that maybe has seen some signs of whether it's a younger girl or boy, or they know somebody is involved in sex trafficking, what was one thing that you would share with them that would have helped you? Is there something that you could share with them?
Absolutely. We have a phone number now, and it's very convenient for anybody. It's the national hotline for human trafficking. Anybody can call, anybody can text and get information.
You can text?
You can text now.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You can go to our website at newliferefuge.com or my website, authorsandystorm.com, and it has that information on there. The number is 888-373-7888, or you can text help to be free. Spell out BEFREE and just text the word help, and they will correspond with you. So if you think that somebody's in immediate danger, you should always call 911. And there is no police department in this country that's not going to respond if you make a 911 call and say, I think that there's a child being victimized, being sold for sex. They're going to respond. But if you just have some, maybe that's not right, maybe you get that feeling in your gut, or if you just want more information, I mean, go to our websites, you can get more information, but call that number or text that number. And it's like the National Clearinghouse. So they're connected with law enforcement all over the country, and they're the ones that take the reports. So I believe Texas is number 2 in reports that are called in to the hotline. So it's good and bad. I mean, it's good that it's getting reported, but it's bad that we have so much of it going on. I think that a lot of it is because we're educating people in Texas, and we're letting them know about that phone number, so they're using it. So that is a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
But I would recommend anybody just put that number in your phone. There's a couple other cool things that you can do, like modern things that you can do. You can download an app that takes pictures of your hotel room. So it goes in a database that police use to when they're building their cases, to look up hotel rooms so that they could prove this child had pictures taken in that hotel room in her online sex ad.
Oh, wow.
There's an app you can download if you're on a plane and you think you see trafficking on an airplane. So just go out there and educate yourself. Do some research on what you can find and how the life that you live could get connected to helping these victims.
Oh my gosh.
I would also say, if I can be so bold, that a big thing that we can all do is change our culture. I mean, we have an issue right now. There's a reason why teen sex trafficking is on the rise in our country. And the number one reason is because there are people that are willing to pay for sex with children. That's a hard truth. It's an ugly reality, but we see the rise in the consumption of pornography and the rise in the consumption of teen sex, of teens for prostitution, go hand in hand. So we have built a culture. There was a sexual revolution, and then there was the me generation, and now we have, I want this sex the way I saw it in the porn that's been piped into my cell phone, my TV, my movies, my computer. And the images that are being shown on porn are highly volatile. They're degrading towards women. They show younger and younger people. And the number 1 or number 2 sex term search for porn is barely legal or teen porn. So we see the rise in pornography, and as hard as it is to talk about, we know they're absolutely related. We see the rise in the consumption of pornography, which there are studies that say 70% of the United States is in some way using pornography, and more than half of them are addicted, use it on a weekly or a daily basis. And I want to say it's not our fault. I mean, this industry has put billions of dollars into developing touchscreen phones, high definition television. Now they're working in virtual reality, and they're spending a lot of money to get people addicted to their product. And they can make a lot of money through the use of pornography, the sale of pornography. So we've kind of created a culture that makes that acceptable. If a guy wants to pimp out his ride, like, that's glorifying the pimp culture. Why would you want your kids talking about pimping something? Pimps are criminals. If a girl dresses a certain way, she's a hoe. Or, I mean, we just have this kind of culture where we've all accepted this. And we watch movies, we watch TV shows that show sex in ways that is unhealthy. And we are raising our kids in this environment. So if we can make a difference in the kids in our life, and teach them that everybody has an inherent value, everybody is a child of God. That is either your wife someday, or it's somebody else's wife. It's your sister, it's your cousin, it's somebody's daughter. If we can raise our sons to know that this is not acceptable, if we can raise our daughters to be modest and I don't think that we should all be Amish. I think that we should all like live our lives and experience all the good things in this world. But there are things that we can teach our daughters about how to dress and how to present ourselves in society, so that that we're not promoting that culture. And the number one way that we can prevent this from happening to our kids, that we can protect our kids and stop this from growing, is by being that trusted adult. I can't say that enough. By being the one that they can come to if something happens, if they're unsure about something, an experience.
So important. I agree. Thank you so much, Sandy. How can people reach out to you, or how can they connect with you? If somebody maybe wants to talk to you directly, how can they reach you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. And you can also go to my website, authorsandystorm.com.
Okay.
I've written a book, Hello Navi, and you could read that book and maybe give some feedback on that. I'm halfway through, almost a little more than halfway through with my second book, and hope to finish that up this week. So I have a lot out there on social media and the web. So there's a lot of different ways to get in touch. But I definitely want to send people to our ministry website as well, newliferefugeministries.com or newliferefuge.com. And we have a lot of resources on there, a lot of information on there, videos, printouts, signs that you can look for, ways that you can volunteer with us, ways that you can help us. We're a threefold ministry, Michelle. We're educating the community, and this has been an amazing opportunity to educate people about trafficking. We are partnering with other organizations, and we work with task forces. We work with law enforcement, with medical professionals, with anybody that might have contact with a trafficking victim at some point, to help them to know what to do when they have this happen. And then number three, we've built a home, and we have 6 more in the works and plan that are for children that have been trafficked. So right now there are less than 300 beds in the country for children that have been trafficked. Less than 300, and we already know there's 79,000 kids in Texas being trafficked.
In Texas, yeah.
So in Texas, there's less than 30 beds. So the homes that we're building are going to make a place for these girls and eventually for boys, because there are no homes for boys, to have a safe place to learn about a new life that they can live without the residue of the things that they've went through. So any partnership that we can get, anybody that would want to partner with us as we do this work would be greatly appreciated, and we always need prayers.
Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for sharing today and educating, not only educating me, but I'm sure educating everybody that listens to this, because I didn't even realize the numbers. I had no idea it was like number 2, even on and just to think that it is like young boys and girls, it's just heartbreaking, because I have young kids, but it makes me want to be very aware. Like, I'm already very aware, but I need to be even more diligent to make sure that I'm not only that trusting adult for my kids, but for their friends, and to look for signs, and I'm able to do that. So I just want to honor you and thank you for coming and sharing today, and just being a survivor, just being a strong woman of God, for leaning on God and getting all your strength, and, taking something that happened to you, a storm, and making it into such a beautiful thing by sharing your story and helping other people, because you're making a difference in the world. And I can't thank you enough for doing that. You're changing lives.
Thank you, Michelle. I like to say when I speak, I'm not a victim and I'm not a survivor. I'm thriving. My life is truly thriving. There's a way that all of us, no matter what we've been through, whether it's breast cancer, whether it's child abuse, whatever the storm that we've been led through, now we're on the other side. Mm-hmm. We can live a life that's thriving now. We don't have to live according to the circumstances of what we've been through. We can use those things to live a powerful life, to help, like you said, to make a difference in the world, and to truly do something good with the days and the years that we have left on this earth. So I can't thank you enough for this opportunity, and to give a platform to the ministry, and to let me share just how awesome our God is and what he's done for me, and to educate the community, because really, if knowledge is power,
Amen.
Information and education is the key
Mhm.
to ending this. So thank you. Thank you so
It
much.
is. It is. You're welcome. So I'm just going to urge all of you again. Please reach out to Sandy. Check out the websites. Please, they're all listed below. Please click on and see how you can help. They're looking for volunteers, monetary partners. So many different ways you can help. And go and read the information and see how you can make a difference in your community. Thank you for joining us this week. Until next week, where my passion really is to help you find strength